Now, let me make just one more comment on the program. We have over 1 million companies that have received this with less than 10 workers. So there is very broad participation in really small business. I will comment, there have been some big businesses that have taken these loans. I was pleased to see that Shake Shack returned the money. We will be putting out some FAQs. There is a certification that people are making. And I ask people, just make sure the intent of this was for business that needed the money. We'll put out an FAQ. But again, the intent of this money was not for big public companies that have access to capital.
And not for Harvard, you might say.
So, Mr. Secretary, are you going to request that those other companies, because obviously Shake Shack was not alone in being a big company that got money in this, are you going to be
I'm
asking?
going to request.
You're going to ask them to return that money?
Yep.
Yeah,
Harvard's going to pay back the money, and they shouldn't be taking it. So Harvard's going to. You have a number of, I'm not going to mention any other names, but when I saw Harvard, they have one of the largest endowments anywhere in the country, maybe in the world, I guess, and they're going to pay back that money.
And I just want to clarify, because certain people on the PPP may have not been clear in understanding the certification. So we will give people the benefit of the doubt. We're going to put an FAQ out, explain the certification. If you pay back the loan right away, you won't have liability to the SBA and to Treasury. But there are severe consequences for people who don't attest properly to this certification. And again, we want to make sure this money is available to small businesses that need it, people who have invested their entire life savings. We appreciate what's going on, and they're hiring people back.
And how are you going to ensure that those small businesses, those small restaurants, cafes, bars, who did not get the money last time around are going to get it this time?
Well, as I said, there are a million of these companies that did get it that are very small. We're working with the banks. We're extremely pleased that the small banks did great. 20% of the loans were made by banks of $1 billion and less, 60% by 20 billion and less, and the big banks also. We want everybody to participate. There's now a lot of money back in the program, and we look forward to all these small businesses getting access to funds. Brett, it's great to see you here.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Do you estimate how long this is going to take? That other pot of money obviously went quickly. Do you assume this is going to go quickly as well?
Well, let me just say, we're pleased with the success of this program and how quickly this got up operationally. We've put out more money in these SBA loans than in the last 10 years of SBA. So I want to thank all the banks that have worked really hard. We knew that when we passed this originally, if there was full takeout, we wouldn't have enough money. That's why we've worked with Congress for more money. And this is going to, we've already impacted about 30 million workers. There'll be a lot more. So we look forward to this having a big impact on the economy.
Yesterday, the president said he would look into the issue of felons, those with criminal convictions, getting access to some of these programs. I was wondering if you have an update on that.
Sure. So we worked with the White House on this. There were actually much more onerous restrictions in the SBA program. There were people who had misdemeanors that weren't allowed to access the program. It was much longer than 5 years. And, we very much, because of the criminal reform legislation that was passed and the work that's been done in the White House by Jared and others, we specifically designed the program, and the 5 years was significantly shorter than what had been done before. So we had already taken that into account. For now, we're not going to do that. But I want to just emphasize, we did take this into account. There were a lot of people that wouldn't have access previously, and we changed those regulations.
Mr. Secretary, the president talked about a phase 4. I know we all understand the circumstances and why businesses need this, but how many more phases can we afford to have, or can businesses expect to have? Do you see a phase 5, a phase 6, a phase 7? What's your thinking on this?
Well, first of all, I very much appreciate the president's support for phase 4. He put out a tweet. As the president said, we would look forward to phase 4. Would be infrastructure. The president's been talking about infrastructure since the campaign. Roads, bridges, broadband, especially broadband now to rural America is very important. We've talked about incentives for restaurants, sports, entertainment, because these businesses have been impacted. The president has talked multiple times about a payroll tax cut. And we've also, we're talking about, in the case of states, we've heard from the governors and the fiscal issues of the states. I think phase 4 will most likely be what we'd need. I think based upon what we're seeing and the reopening of the economy and the amount of money we're putting in and working with the Federal Reserve on 13.3, I think you're going to see a lot of liquidity, and we look forward to business rebounding, especially later this summer.
Just real quick to follow up, and the PPP program, is this the last tranche of money you think you're going to need for small businesses?
We would expect this is the last tranche, but obviously we can always reconsider that. But this is a lot of money going out. Again, let me just be clear. You know, it's another $310 billion here and another $300 billion of loans. That's over $600 billion putting into small businesses, which are the backbone of the economy, 50% of the private payroll.
How much do you think Phase 4 will cost? And it will include all of those things?
It'd be premature for us to comment what the cost is. We'll work with Congress on that, and we'll consider it.
Infrastructure
Infrastructure
and payroll.
could be a big investment.
That's going to be